So, Michelle.
So, David, welcome back.
Well, yeah, we have a little break.
We have
Just
a tiny
little break.
I know.
You run off to Byron to watch the music festival.
Yeah, Blues
I
Fest.
stay home and smoke meat. It's really hard to find tally hoes to put a brisket in.
I don't know. I don't want to know what you do with your aunt.
Barbecue.
Oh, sorry, smoking meat.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, whoa.
Okay.
Right. And what happens?
What?
The balloon goes up in the spy world.
I know.
And not a balloon, not a balloon like we talked about, but there are two big cases of
Yep.
information being leaked.
Yep.
One I really want to dig into. The other one, which is an Australian one, we're going to touch on because, A, it's sub judice.
It's very interesting, that one.
Oh, yeah, but the thing is, we're not going to really know much about it till June because that's when the court case starts, or at least that's the next hearing. So
Yes. Should we get into it?
let's talk about spies.
Okay. You're listening to I Spy, the sad Discord user of Australian intelligence.
Check it out. I got a photo of a tank. Check it out, a tank.
No.
I got a secret file.
No.
Secret file. Is everyone going to
No.
be my friend? Here's the plans to the new Orca submarine.
No, not really interested.
Anyone want to play Minecraft?
Yeah.
Cool.
Hello and welcome to I Spy. My name's Michelle Stevenson. I'm here with David Callan, and we're back after a small break. And I have to say quickly, we do have our number one fan in the studio with us.
Yay!
My son, Bay.
Yeah, and look, can I be honest with you? It's
Yeah.
like now I've got a live audience.
I know,
It's gonna
he's staring at you.
I'm going to be so totally over the top.
10-year-olds, who knew that was our
Woo!
demographic?
Yeah, that's totally it. That's totally it. Actually, literally, that is my demographic because that's my mental age.
You're not wrong.
No, actually, look, I exaggerate. I'm a little younger.
Yep.
So,
Yes.
Jake Teixeira.
Yes, this was so interesting. 21-year-old, worked in defence.
Massachusetts Air National Guard.
Yes.
Worked for the 102nd Intelligence Wing. Dumped 300 top secret documents on a chat room on Discord.
Now, this is so fascinating to me because,
Oh, brilliant.
the high level of security, the documents he was able to get is pretty insane for a 21-year-old.
Well, we'll talk about that.
And also the fact that he decided to put it on Discord. Why?
All right, okay. To your first point, a
Yes.
21-year-old has got access to top secret documents. All right, when I joined ASIO, I was 20, turned 21 while I was
Yeah.
there. Right, so I was around 21. I was cleared to secret pretty much when I first got in the
Yeah.
building. Cleared to top secret when I was about 23, 24. I was trusted with Australians' top secrets.
Which to me still boggles my mind.
And by the time I was 25,
Yeah.
I was top secret and into code word territory. But the thing is, as well, is I knew enough not to tell people
I know.
what I was working with. Right? Point number one.
Yeah.
And one of the things, as I've always said, when people ask me where I worked, I'd say I worked for ASIO and it was the perfect cover because no one believed me.
Yeah.
Right? That again, I never saw ASIO as something that I wanted to boast or brag about. And sure, I saw things when I worked there. I know of secrets that would make your toes curl. I mean,
Yes.
there's some really interesting stuff that Australian governments do.
But it's not your job to
There's this
have an opinion on it.
Little thing called, well, we can have an opinion. There's a little thing called need to know.
Yes.
Do you need to know Australia? No, you really don't.
No.
You may want to know.
No.
But you don't need to know. Right?
Unless we're going around and we're killing like civilians and, bombing them, which, there are instances where I think, the transparency is key.
Well, David McBride is a great
Yes.
case in point there. Now, the interesting thing is, one of the things, it's a great irony that someone pointed out was the fact that there was Congress banging on about TikTok and TikTok are trying to steal their secret. They're going to steal our secrets.
Yep.
And yet this guy just dumps 300 TS documents or around 300 documents on Discord.
Yeah.
Right. Now, the thing about Discord, and the thing is, it wasn't he dumped them and then he was arrested. He did that in January.
Yeah, I know. They've been on for a while.
Right. So he dumped
But this
them.
is what happens when you dump somewhere that is like quite deep in the internet world.
Yeah, well, for those who don't know, Discord works on servers. So you set up a private chat room.
Yep.
You can't go to that chat room unless you're invited. You can't even find that chat room unless
Yeah.
you're invited, right? So that's point number one. It's a very, very insular organisation anyway. Now, what happened was our guy Jake, also known as OG, the leader of Thug Shaker Central.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Yeah, and it's actually, that chat room was renowned for interesting guns, right-wing rhetoric, racist rhetoric, all that sort of stuff.
So clearly he was pro-Putin as well.
Maybe.
Well, because the secrets that he released were pertaining to the Ukraine war.
We'll get to that.
Okay.
It's far bigger than that.
Okay.
Right. Now, the interesting thing about it was he dumped it on there to show the boys, right?
Yeah.
There are about 30 guys in this room, right? Guys, check it out. Look what I've got. Want to see some classified docs?
Want to see some secrets?
Want to check it out? All right. And the whole thing was they turned around and went, yeah, cool, let's talk about guns. Right? They weren't interested. They went, it's probably junk.
Probably because it was above their intellect grade.
Possibly. But one, Luca was his name. He then took it to a Minecraft server.
What?
And dumped it there.
Oh.
Yes, babe.
I know my son his
Minecraft.
eyes just perked up because Minecraft, for anyone who doesn't understand, it is peak behavior. Like kids just go nuts for this thing.
There you go. So just to make you excited, yeah, Minecraft is now involved in the spy world.
Yeah,
right. And I think
Minecraft.
it's really good that Mr. Teixeira has been working on Minecraft because he knows how to break rocks. Because that's what he's going to be doing.
Exactly. And Minecraft, for those who don't know, it's a game where you go in and you create worlds and you walk through the worlds, and it's very good. It's kind of like an idea of coding, I would imagine.
Yeah, you mentioned that in our last episode.
Yes.
And can I just say that he is creating a world for himself, and it's an extremely small 8x10 world.
It's a small box.
Right. So Luca went and put it on a Minecraft server, and all the Minecraft people went, and then it got moved to another server and that Minecraft server had about 3,000 people on it.
Yep.
And then it kept going into bigger servers, right? Until it then made the jump to, I think it was Telegram.
Yep.
But a Russian Telegram. It was like a Russian arm of Telegram.
I mean, this is right. I mean, the Russians would have loved it.
Where some of
like
it
a
was,
gift.
But some of it was doctored. Right, so they doctored the intelligence and then released it onto Twitter. Right, so it took about a month to get there, but it finally popped up on Twitter, and that's when the American intelligence community went. And
Wait, what?
Again, fingers in ears. The first reaction was, "Holy shit!" Right?
Yes,
which is probably the best way to do it. Now, let's talk about what went out. First, there's a lot of stuff about the US in the Ukraine. Also admitting that, revealing that the Americans have special forces there. The UK have special forces. France, I think Holland. There's quite a few countries that have special forces in the Ukraine.
Not ideal.
Well, what are they doing? Yeah. Are they actively participating in the conflict?
I'm sure they're just keeping an eye on things.
Or are they training? Right now, I would think more likely they're training.
Okay.
But the interesting thing is it's mainly the UK. The UK have the bulk of special forces over there.
That's because the UK is inherently tied to Europe. So it's in their best interest to not let Putin win.
Yeah, help the neighbours out when you can. Just jump the fence.
Yeah.
So there's that. That was one of the other things. One of the things was the Americans did not believe that the Ukrainians were prepared, armed enough for the upcoming, what will be a spring counteroffensive, because we're expecting the Russians to attack in any moment.
Yeah.
And then they'll counteroffend. Another thing that came up is the Americans were very concerned that the Ukrainians didn't have enough air missiles, like surface-to-air missiles to combat planes. Now that, again, these are secrets you don't want let out.
No, this is like a real gift for Putin.
Well, is it? Because a lot of people are now saying that, well, maybe they released it to lull him into a false sense of security.
Well, I mean, that thought did cross my mind.
Yeah.
But it's just all too a little haphazard for my liking.
Well, the other things that came out, they've been watching UN Secretary General Guterres quite closely because he's got a very soft approach to the Russians. He's trying to appease them, and they don't like that. There's intelligence about the infighting in the Kremlin, about how they should be handling the war dead.
Yep.
That was one of the things where they said the information coming out of the Russian Telegram accounts seemed to be doctored because the figures they were putting up for Ukrainian war dead was a lot higher than it actually is. And the Russian figures were a lot lower. So they fudged the figures there. There was stuff about Egypt being convinced. The Americans were trying to convince the Egyptians not to sell arms to the Russians. South Korea were unsure about selling their missiles to the US because the US would then sell them shift them to the Ukraine. China had tested a hypersonic vehicle that in a 12-minute flight covered 2,100 kilometres. There were DOD reports, there were CIA briefings, there was a lot of stuff in it. The interesting thing about all of it is when I read that stuff, it all sounds like briefing papers. It doesn't sound like hard intelligence.
Right.
I think when you look at it, he wasn't dealing with hard intelligence. He was dealing with what we call situation reports.
Right.
And now I dealt with a lot of those when I was working at ASIO. You do, right? When you're working.
So it's kind of more like a brief overview of what is going on, but not the detailed.
Here's all the intelligence that we've got. Let's boil it down into what it means, right? So he was getting it's already been obtained, evaluated, and correlated.
Yep.
It's now being released in report form.
Right.
So that was one of the things that's really important about it was I don't think he had hard intelligence. The fun thing is How did he get it out?
Yeah.
You're going to love this.
How?
He photocopied it and then stuffed it in his pocket and walked out the door.
So what, excuse my language, the fuck is going on?
Now, here's another thing. One of the most important things, one of the most important tools we had at ASIO was a photocopier. Because when you get an intelligence report, it's got to go to multiple people.
Yes,
Right, so
and as per government requirements, you have to photocopy everything.
well, the thing is, well, not necessarily. The thing is, one
I
of
know,
my
but
jobs,
like it's very government to have multiple copies of something on paper.
but that also means multiple people can read it at once. Now,
Yeah.
most of that will be online. It's not an issue,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You
yeah.
just bring up the report. There it is on your screen.
Yeah.
But back in the old days, and by the sounds of it, in the current days in the US, there was paper everywhere. And one of my jobs was to go through the files and anything with copy stamped on it, rip it off and shred it.
Right.
Because we know
don't need the copy.
We've got the original, we know where
Yeah.
it is, we don't need the copies. Everyone's signed and seen the copy. Yep. If they haven't signed off on the copy, it goes back to that desk
Yeah.
and someone signs it off. We
And
all know
then
it's
you
shredded.
destroy it.
Then you destroy it. Right. Copies get destroyed.
So this guy just, photocopying shit.
So he was photocopying stuff that he thought, oh, that's cool. Oh, yeah.
Didn't
the
anyone-
guys on Minecraft server are going to really dig on me for
Did
this.
no one realize he was photocopying all these things?
Because everyone uses a photocopier.
No.
Seriously, when the two things that break down that would shut down an intelligence organization, the photocopier and the shredder.
That's so crazy.
It was ridiculous. Right, so he was, and if it was screen-based, he was probably printing it off.
Yeah.
Which again, why is there a printer attached to your network
Yeah.
that is accessible to anyone? Now, so he was basically walking out the door, going home, putting it on a scanner, scanning it, and then uploading it to Discord.
It's
I
so
mean,
funny.
for
I
God's
don't even
sake.
understand and how it was never. Anyway, but so what? Let's kind of get to the point.
Yeah.
Like, so we know what he was uploading.
Yep.
Do we know why?
To impress his mates.
Is it
That's
like?
the saddest thing about
But I
this.
feel like
No.
it's a very pro Putin stance. Like the information that kind of got out there was like very like it could hurt the Ukrainians.
It could hurt Ukrainians. But it could hurt a lot of people all across
Hmm.
the board. I mean, that's the really important thing you've got to remember is you've got to look at the outcomes of what's
Yeah.
happened. It's incredibly embarrassing for the United States.
Yeah.
Because this is now, the third time they've had a major leak in a decade. You've
Yeah.
had, just over a decade. Interestingly enough, as a lot of people have said, including Mark Polymeropoulos,
Our mate.
friend of the podcast.
Yes.
Mark basically turned around and said, look, it's serious, but it's not the end of the world. It's not catastrophic. He's basically said that his contacts in the intelligence community have gone, yeah, this is embarrassing, but it's not the end of the world.
So what's going to happen to him?
Right. He's going to go to prison.
Yeah.
And the problem is,
impressing his
it depends on how they charge him.
Yeah.
Because a release of a single document, I think, is up to 15 years in prison. If they decide to go, we're going to charge you
Per document?
per document.
You're screwed.
And we're going to run it instead of running it concurrently. We're going to run your sentence sequentially. He could be in prison for the rest of his life.
Oh, my God.
I don't think it's worth it. Honestly, I think here's the thing: when I was 21 years old and working for ASIO, I did not really think very much about what I was doing. I had a
No.
job. I did my job.
Yeah.
Oh, did I want to impress people? Yes, I did.
Yes.
Generally, people of the opposite sex.
Yes.
Right. Because but the thing is, I didn't use ASIO to do that. I used my phenomenal thespianic skills as an actor and comedian.
That
to
is not
impress
true.
It
I'm
is
sorry,
true.
that is not
Every
true.
girl I went out with saw me on
sorry, no
stage
one was
first and went,
impressed.
I want a piece of that.
No one wanted a piece of anything.
They did. I'm married. I have children. Somebody obviously wants a piece of it. Not
One
anymore.
person wanted a piece.
Oh, that's so cruel. You're so harsh and so very accurate.
I know.
Anyway,
Go.
the big thing about this was, for me, I understood the importance of what I held.
Yeah.
The Americans have a major problem at the moment in that they have over 1 million people with top secret clearances.
Crazy.
Which is huge.
That's
That's
so
mad.
many money, so many people.
So many people. Now, a population of 300 million or 350 million, I think it is. I think it's the fourth most populated country in the world. I'm not sure. That's still a small percentage of your population, but it's still a lot of people to have access. And obviously, their vetting is not as good as they thought because they obviously didn't see this guy's Discord page.
No.
Now, it highlights the problem with America. It also erodes trust in America. And this can be a point where the Americans can go to us, look, we know you've got some intelligence on Indonesia. Can you share it with us? The Australians are going to go, no, we don't trust you. They're our neighbours. This is highly sensitive. And I'm sorry, we can't.
You got 1 million people over
We
there
can't
who
take
have
the
access
risk
to all of this.
of letting you get your hands on it. Now, back in the day, and the thing is, they created this amazing amount of access because after 9/11, they realized there was a huge problem with, it's called stovepiping or siloing, where basically everything was held in one place.
Yep.
So there was a report coming out of an FBI office saying Osama bin Laden is trying to do something on American soil. But because it never got to anyone, and by the time it did get to the US, to the president's office, to the Oval Office, by the time it got there, it had been so diluted by other people going, well, we can't say that, and should we say this, and don't want to alarm anybody, that it was absolutely unintelligible. It made no sense.
Right.
So what they did is they've gone too far in the opposite direction, going, look, let's let everyone get their hands on it and anyone who has an idea about it. Unfortunately, one of the people had the idea of photocopying it and sticking it up on Discord. Right? Hey!
Which is great. And
Now-
it made its way to Minecraft, which
Yeah.
made its way to another chat, which made its way to Twitter.
yeah,
It's like great. It's great.
Right. And now they're really worried because the Washington Post has something like 150 of these documents and they don't know which ones they've got, right? They don't know who's holding what. Now, you'd expect that they'd turn around to the Washington Post and go,
Yes.
excuse me, can
we just have that
a look
stuff
at
back?
Or can we have our stuff back, guys?
Yeah.
But instead of that, what they're doing is they're like going, oh, what do we do next? The 102nd Intelligence Wing of the Massachusetts National Guard, Air Guard, National, whatever,
Air
Air National Guard,
Yeah.
they have been detasked. They have been shut down.
Right.
Literally, they've turned, right, your intelligence task is now over.
Oh, my gosh.
Your operation is
He ruined
done.
it for everyone.
You've spoiled it for everyone. Jake, look what you did. You've ruined everyone's fun.
You've ruined your life. You ruined everyone around you.
Now, so the other thing is it's done is it's revealed American standard operational procedures
Yes.
in regards to SIGINT.
Yes.
Signals intelligence. Right. That's what the Air Force is doing here. It's a signals intelligence group. And basically this guy's getting his hands on the final reports that are coming out of that.
Yes.
And also the final reports that are going in because we share intelligence. I used to read sit reps from the CIA and the FBI.
But it's always
UKSS,
interesting.
SIS.
It's always interesting when these things happen because it kind of shines a light on where the weak points are. And it's like, I think, that story about, what was it? They did Catch Me If You Can, that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio was based on that guy who
Yeah. By the time they worked out who he was, he was already gone.
He impersonated everyone, but then instead of going to jail, he ended up getting hired to certain companies to show them how he got in and how he did things.
Which is not a stupid way.
No.
Heck of and Tom Hanks is brilliant in it as well. It's a really fun film.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's revealed the problems, but this is an ongoing problem. The fact that Snowden was able to take millions of documents out.
Crazy.
Chelsea Manning gave access to the actual cables, the entire cable database to WikiLeaks.
Yeah.
These are massive leaks. So the other thing that's really important that they really need to focus on is why is everybody doing this?
Yeah.
What is the disillusionment that's going through our intelligence community that people are suddenly doing this?
Yeah.
Manning and Snowden were ideologues. This guy was just a twit.
Just a guy who wanted to impress the mates.
Just want to impress the boys.
Not great.
Yeah, he reminds me of the guy from the pizza shop in The Simpsons. Hey, I just want you guys to check it out. I got some secrets. Cool, huh? Right?
My son's just staring at you going, what's The Simpsons?
What's The Simpsons?
No, he knows what
He
The
knows what it
Simpsons
is. He's now pounding his fists on his knees because he knows if he pounds the table, we'll hear it through the microphone. Right. So the whole thing with Teixeira, and by the way, that's a Portuguese name. I looked it up, and that is how you pronounce it. People have been calling him Teixeira, but it's Teixeira.
And his arrest was pretty dramatic.
He was waiting for them, though.
I know, but there was a lot of people on him.
Oh, yeah. Armed squad. Well, funnily enough, that's nothing new in America. If you go shoplifting, they're going to come at you.
I know,
with a SWAT
exactly.
team. But the whole thing was he was ready to go. He was waiting.
Yep.
I thought the fact that he dressed himself in a T-shirt and red shorts with a pair of boots, classy.
Ready to go.
You should have worn your uniform, man, and been real. Just going the whole Top Gun sort of.
Now, the other thing that happened while we were kind of off on a little Easter break is, it happened right in my backyard. Bondi. Alexander
Sergo. That's Hungarian, by the way.
It's
I looked it up,
Hungarian.
and it is Sergo.
I know.
Right.
Now, he was arrested, accused of foreign interference, and what was interesting about this? So he was arrested, and the big title was like espionage.
Yeah,
like that's what everyone was like going for.
Yeah,
but when you dig a little deeper, the documents were open source, like they're available to anyone pretty much.
This is the story I've been dreaming of.
Okay, so let's get into it.
All right, so the important thing about the Sergo case is, yes, it's a foreign interference thing.
Yes.
Right? And Bernard Collaery, his barrister, basically got up in court and went, you cannot say that this is
Yes.
You've got to stop the press from saying it's an espionage case. It's not. There is no espionage law breached. It's a foreign interference law. And by the way, it's all open source. What's the problem?
Yes, I mean that's kind of what piqued my interest. Yet I think what was bad was like he admitted that yes, he knew these two characters were bad. He invited one of them to come to Australia, but he also kind of thought this was a quid pro quo about doing business in China.
All right. Okay. Now here's the eyes down for a full house. Let's get into the wonderful world of HumInt asset recruitment.
Oh my God, I can't wait. Go.
Human intelligence recruitment. Right. So essentially what happens is he was supplying info to Ken and Evelyn. Ken and Evelyn.
Oh, when I saw those names too, and I was like, they were Chinese for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Ken and Evelyn. I'm like, did they go? These are the names that will work.
Yeah, these are good Aussie names.
Yeah.
Ken and Evelyn. Right. Now, Ken and Evelyn would always meet him in cafes in Shanghai, but the cafes were always empty, and he had the feeling that they were emptied by Ken and Evelyn. So either A, they were incredibly powerful intelligence operatives in the Ministry of State Security, or B, they smell really, really bad. Right. So, yes, they were all open source intelligence.
Yes.
Right. Now, here's the thing. Here's how you recruit a human source.
Okay.
You don't go up to someone and go, hey, guy, understand you work in this industry. I did a human recruitment course, but I was the source. I was the asset they were trying to recruit.
Yep.
The first thing that your potential handler or your recruiter is going to ask you for is something simple.
Okay.
I'm not going to walk up to, as I was in this, a lieutenant commander in the submarine corps.
And go, hand me all your documents.
And go, can I have the blueprint of the Collins class submarine?
No. And we've spoken about this before, where you start with something really small.
And in this operation, in this exercise, the whole thing was, can you get me sounding charts of Sydney Harbour?
Yes.
Because I'm going to go fishing.
Yeah.
Right, cool. That's fine. Right. The whole thing is, give me a little something.
Yes.
Now, give me a little something more. Oh, can I have that one? Yeah, I know.
And then all of a sudden you're getting free tickets to the opera and $500 and you're helping a mate out.
Yeah, you're helping a mate out, but then it gets into the material, which is actually, we need you to steal the blueprints for the Collins class submarine.
But he didn't steal anything that wasn't already available.
Yeah, but I'm going to hazard a guess.
But you reckon he was halfway through his...
Couple of points that do not augur well in his favour. One, he suspected that these two
he knew that it was bad.
They were intelligence operatives, and he didn't report it to Australia when he came home. After the fact that they gave him a shopping list for info that they wanted.
But do you think it's also hard for him because he has a business in China, and so he was probably like, if I don't give them what they want, is my business going to be done? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
he lived in China.
Yep. But here's the thing.
Okay.
Full disclosure will get you out of a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Now, if he'd gone, gee, these guys really strike me as being intelligence officers, and I don't know
Which
what
he apparently knew.
Which he apparently knew. You turn around to your intelligence officers and go, hey guys, I think I'm being
What
sourced.
do you want me to tell them?
What do you want me to do? Now, the thing is, ASIO would probably turn around and go, oh, well, actually, it wouldn't be ASIO, it would be ASIS because this is now foreign intelligence gathering. They go, no, keep going.
Yeah.
You just tell us everything they want. Do all of this.
This is great.
But also, and it was something the judge said, is like when Bernard Cleary got up and went, this is all open source, anybody could have got it. It's like, then why did he need an envelope of cash? And why did they need him? Because they're recruiting him.
Of course they are. But like, I didn't understand what the end game was, like what access to what documents he would have had access to.
Right. Again, I don't know because he seemed to work in advertising. He worked in with telcos for a while, hotels for a while. I think what it might have been is he becomes talent spotter.
Okay.
Right. That could have been an option. Again, I'm spitballing here. I don't know.
Yeah.
But also, you don't know where they could be like going, look, we need you to apply for a job with this company.
Yeah. Okay.
The thing about who's mining lithium in Australia, which is a valid point. We all want to know that. But the whole thing is basically what they would do with a recruitment like that is you're looking at a guy and going, hang on, we could actually push him into that direction.
Yeah.
And then we've got a source, in possibly a company that we need to know about. The thing you've got to remember as well is their intelligence gathering isn't limited to governments.
Yeah.
It also goes to private industry. I mean, our nest of spies became a hive of spies.
Love nests.
Now we've got just our little individual spy who got busted.
But apparently there was others who were approached by Evelyn and Ken.
Yeah.
And they're asking who they are and where they are.
Yep.
But what's interesting to me is it's not a very clear cut case. There's a lot of
at all.
blurring. He's admitted fault.
Yep.
I mean, he was incredibly disappointed when he wasn't granted bail.
Yep.
So, and apparently, you know, he's in solitary confinement. He's on his own.
Well, here's the thing as well that's important about that. I mean, and Kaleri has said it's really interfering with his defence because he can't get clean access to his client. The whole thing is, I think the rumour was that he's in solitary confinement with his lights on 24/7.
Yes.
I don't know if that's going to be true or not. I don't see the point of it.
No.
Right? Other than, you know, a bit of revenge, what's the point?
Yeah.
And also, what I think is probably going on is they've got him in solitary confinement so he can't then communicate to anybody else that might be involved in this.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
It limits his ability to contact anybody else that they may be worried is involved.
Yeah.
And they're still trying to get all their ducks in a row with this. But they had to take that asset they basically had to take that pawn off the board so they could then see what happens to the board.
So what will happen to this guy considering it was open sourced? I mean, I feel like, yes, he's done something wrong. It's not as bad as, you know, old mate on Discord.
Yeah, it's not Discord territory. It's not Snowden. I think it's a test case for the foreign interference legislation. I think this is very much ASIO and the federal police going, well, we've got to do something.
Yeah.
Let's do this and see what happens. Very often in Australia, funnily enough, these things don't tend to stick, which I find really interesting. We tend to find it difficult to make these things really stick and put people in prison. Would he serve time? I don't know. It's certainly ruined his reputation. It's going to make it very hard for him to work in China.
Definitely. I think that would
but also
that
the
would
fact
take him
that,
out of that business.
you know, Kaleri said he surrendered his passport, so why is a flight risk? But the government's gone, sorry, here's a flight. And even the magistrate. And the magistrate said something, you know, as the magistrate said, you know, if it's all open source, why is he getting envelopes of cash? Also, if he's that important to the Chinese government that they've gone through all these hoops to sort of like get him into play, there's nothing to stop them from pulling him out of the country. And they could do it, right? We're a big country to get out of. It's not impossible.
Well, one of the things he said is he wants to get out of jail so he can move back to China.
Yeah, right.
So
he wants to go back to China, and China probably would have him, though he's probably not much of an asset not an intelligence asset anymore because he's blown. But the thing about this, what I think we're waiting on the next hearing, right, in June, because I think what's going to happen is ASIO are probably going to have a lot more information that they're going to be willing to reveal, which they'll have to once they go to court. But basically, they got him off the table to see what happens to the table, right? Sometimes you've got to, it's like chess, you remove a pawn to see what your opponent is going to do when you've removed that piece, right? They've taken that piece off the table. Let's see what they do to counter, right? So I think at the moment, what's going to happen to him? Is he going to serve time unless new information comes out? Probably not.
Yeah, I don't think he will.
If he does, it'll probably be a suspended sentence. But in all honesty, this is why I was more interested in talking about the US one than this, is we just don't know enough about it yet.
So it'll be
It's too
interesting.
early.
So we'll wait till June, then we can have a bit more of a conversation about it.
About Mr. Sergo, which is Hungarian and pronounced correctly. I was very cautious.
I know.
You can't say cautious.
No, when I first read his name, I was like, Russian?
Sergo. Hungarian.
Chinese? I know, but like it was like,
Yeah.
I was very confused about it. Chinese, Russian, Chinese, Hungarian. It was like,
Same with Tesoro. It was like, hang on, Tesoro, what's that? And it's Portuguese.
Yes.
Right. So ultimately what we've got going on is, God bless it, it doesn't matter how much technology we have, how cool we are, how slick we think we are. The one thing, and this goes back to our episode last week and AI, there's one thing you can't predict is the way humans will act, right?
No.
This guy should not have, Tesoro should not have done this, but he did because he wanted to impress someone. Who that someone is, we'll never know. Well, we probably will. With Sergo, he got caught in a trap and he didn't do the right thing by going, guys, I think I'm caught in a trap.
Yeah.
I think that's the real issue here is the fact that if he'd reported 2 years ago that I'm being approached by MSS.
But he could have very easily, because he was caught up in Shanghai in the COVID lockdowns and he was stuck there. He could have very easily, I mean, your mind is going to go a little bit. He could have very easily have been swayed and thought that that was the only way to do business and stay in the country.
Look,
so,
very much.
I mean, I do understand would I do it? No, of course not. But I do kind of understand.
Yeah. Well, but honestly, bottom line, people be people.
Yeah. All right. Let's end on that
Yeah.
weird ending.
Sorry.